The father and children detained by immigration agents on their way to school in Durango recently are now on their way to Colombia. Local police had tried to get the kids released to their mother. Elected Democrats and Republicans in Congress tried to intervene in the family's case. But immigration advocates now say that father and his kids have agreed to leave the country without their wife and mother. Fernando Jaramillo Solano, his 12-year-old daughter and 15-year-old son were detained in October on their way to school, despite the fact that he had no criminal history and a pending asylum case to stay in the country. This sparked community protests in Durango, which were met with by the use of chemical agents and physical force by federal agents. The family was then taken to an ICE facility in Texas. Democratic Senators John Hickenlooper and Michael Bennet, along with Republican Congressman Jeff Hurd, called for the family to be released and brought back to Colorado for their pending asylum case. The advocacy group Compañeros said today that the family is simply exhausted at this point and wants to regain, quote, even a portion of the freedom that was taken from them. The city of Aurora is celebrating the launch of a fleet of flock camera drones to layer on top of the Flock license plate tracking cameras, just as researchers say that Flock's surveillance system is incredibly easy to hack. Our Spencer Soysher has that.
Quincy and Parker Road, eastbound.
Aurora police are excited to show off their new real-time information center and their new partnership with Flock for a drone as first responder program. Aurora already has Flock's AI scanning cameras all over town.
I mean, it's extraordinarily easy. Like 12-year-olds could do it.
Cameras that experts say are quite easy to hack.
It would be about 30 seconds.
You took control of the cameras in under 30 seconds.
Correct. Yeah.
John Gaines is a cybersecurity researcher.
Our camera would connect to this, right? But this is like the brain behind it, right?
He bought Flock cameras on eBay and started looking for vulnerabilities in Flock's system before a bad actor could.
The stuff that is running on the devices themselves is also lacking.
He says the security on the devices was so low level, he can plant data on the cameras and was even able to pull footage off of the camera from the factory where it was made.
A hypothetical worst case, I can remote wirelessly connect to this device and plant footage that will result in, let's say, a hit coming up on the hot list and the cops showing up to somebody.
Those issues caught Ben Jordan's attention, a YouTuber and a researcher whose new video featured some of the 51 vulnerabilities that John found.
For the video, I kind of concentrate on the ones that were the most severe.
The most egregious vulnerability, Ben believes, is the no mandate of multi-factor authentication for police. The same thing you have to use to log into your Google account is not required for all police departments to log into Flock.
Where this is a national security risk. Like, this actually needs to be dealt with because I was finding accounts for sale on the dark web.
Ben says he was able to find police Flock logins on the dark web, though he didn't buy them for legal reasons. Flock responded to this research, saying 97% of their customers now use multi-factor authentication, and that around this time last year, it started forcing new customers to use it.
Not having multi-factor authentication on a camera that's logging the location of everybody is just unfathomably bad.
Both Aurora and Denver police told me tonight that they require multi-factor authentication for their Flock logins, even though, Kyle, there is no mandate for that with the company.
Oh boy. So when you talk about the idea of not just somebody getting in and looking at the video, but somebody being able to plant video in there. We just saw that case out of the Denver suburbs where cops told that woman they had her dead to rights, accusing her of a crime. She had to prove her innocence, which she did because they said that they supposedly had video of her.
Right. It could be so consequential in the fact that you put something on there and people are very adamant that, well, our camera saw you in this particular space. You could easily plant something, put something there that could hurt somebody's chances in court, could really hurt their criminal record. It could have awful outcomes.
Sure, I think everybody understands how useful these cameras are to solving crimes, but some of this stuff is like pretty dystopian. All right, well, appreciate you staying on it, Spencer Soysher. Thank you. President Trump's personal attorney, the Coloradan handpicked to prosecute the president's political enemies, appears to be in over her head and sinking fast. Lindsay Halligan's attempt at prosecuting former FBI Director James Comey is going poorly. But don't take it from me because I've prosecuted the same number of cases as Halligan, 0. Take it from former U.S. Attorney for Colorado Troy Ide, who served in the second Bush administration.
I question the basic duty of competency if what we're hearing is true. There is a duty under the ethical rules under 1.1, there's a duty of competency.
He says this because in court today, Halligan admitted that the grand jury in the Comey case never saw the specific indictment that led to his criminal prosecution. They saw a similar one, rejected some of it, and then the grand jury foreman signed an edited indictment without it being presented to the grand jury again or having a second vote. And Halligan's team dodged when asked by a judge if prosecutors in her office had written a memo explaining why Comey should not be prosecuted. The judge will now consider whether to allow that case to proceed.
You know, I don't know if she's cooked. I don't know, but I think that there's a real question of competency, and I'm really interested in what this judge is going to have to say. That's for sure. And I hope the public pays attention to this. It's not acceptable what's going on in this country. We cannot allow this to go on.
Comey's team says the whole prosecution is just political revenge and is asking the judge to toss the case. Halligan's previous experience was as an insurance attorney before she represented Trump personally. She grew up here in Broomfield. She went to Regis University, and she was a finalist for Miss Colorado USA back when the pageant was owned by Donald Trump. A Democrat who fled the state legislature in disgrace to avoid an ethics investigation is now facing more criminal charges. Former state senator Sonia Jaquez Lewis of Longmont is now charged with 3 new felonies. The new counts are for forgery. Back in July, she was charged with attempting to influence a public servant. Earlier this year, her fellow Democrats at the state capitol were investigating claims that she had serially mistreated her staff. And that's when they said that she faked at least one letter of support from a former employee, as an employee who did not support her. And this woman's name was on the letter. Jaquez Lewis then resigned. She told me at the time that the fake letter of support was a mistake and was not supposed to be submitted to the legislature. The charges she faces now are serious. They carry the potential of more than 10 years in prison. If there is any silver lining in Colorado not seeing snow this year, at least it gives CDOT time to fix its busted avalanche mitigation system at the base of Loveland Pass. The machines CDOT uses to do controlled avalanche blasts are a bit too prone to blasting themselves apart. Our Marshall Zellinger explains.
When it starts snowing again in Colorado without it being made artificially, Colorado's Department of Transportation will have to start preventing dangerous avalanches on US 6 on the way up to Loveland Pass. But the system currently in place is at urgent need of replacements because of risk of catastrophic failure. The GasX mitigation system uses compressed gas to cause snowslides to prevent dangerous avalanches. A memo to the CDOT Commission details the urgent need to replace the system because the steel tubes are unreliable and have an elevated risk of catastrophic failure. The system has a history of failure and excessive cost, hundreds of thousands of dollars in 10 years.
When they fail in the winter. So a failure in the winter means we can't use it.
As CDOT's winter operations manager, Mike Chapman helps coordinate avalanche mitigation. And on US 6, just above Loveland ski area, the mitigation system consists of 10 exploders, which are at catastrophic risk of exploding the steel tubes where the gas is blasted from. Catastrophic for the device, not for people, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah, the service that we provide the traveling public isn't going to change. We're ready for the winter.
That's because CDOT will keep using the working exploders. In February, CDOT saw a third tube failure when the steel blew itself apart.
The seam on the tube itself gave way after, it's a significant amount of force that these things put out.
The blasts from these tubes are supposed to allow for CDOT to bring down snow onto US 6 and clear it before it becomes an avalanche out of CDOT's control. As a backup, CDOT still uses what it calls an avalauncher, which shoots artillery shells from the back of a truck.
Because of our redundancies, it's not necessarily that we have more risk to the public or more risk of closure. It's just more time consuming for my team.
That avalauncher injured 2 workers in 2014 when a shell blew up inside the gun. That was the year before CDOT started using the GasX system. Today, CDOT requested $2 million from its commissioners so it can stop using GasX and use a similar remote-controlled explosive instead. The commission will decide on that money tomorrow, Kyle.
So GasX, which is not a treatment for flatulence, but instead is an avalanche mitigation control system, ironically has an issue that's a bit like the old banana in the tailpipe.
I was watching the picture of that as it blew apart, and I could just think of Beverly Hills Cop. Like, if it actually worked, if you put the banana in the tailpipe, will it actually blow? Maybe they should check and make sure people are not sneaking bananas into these exploders before they try to do avalanche mitigation.
Yeah. Well, we're going to add this to the list of things that we didn't know about in Colorado, but we do now, thanks to Marshall Zellinger. I so admire what you have been doing as a community of Next viewers recently to feed our neighbors. In the last 3 weeks, you have raised $250,000 for nonprofits fighting hunger from Denver to northern Colorado to Adams County. So we're going to keep our focus on helping food banks by doing something that we have never done in your 5 years of weekly microgiving, by helping 9, love the number 9 organizations at once. This week's Word of Thanks microgiving campaign supports the food banks of Arapahoe County with support from the nonprofit Arapahoe County Foundation. Your donations this week will help feed families from Littleton to Inglewood to Aurora and out the I-70 corridor to Bennett and Deer Trail on the plains. From the nonprofit Backpack Society's market for Littleton schools families in need, to food pantries in Inglewood, Cherry Creek, Sheridan, and Aurora schools. You'll also support I-70 Street Reach's work, delivering food to low-income families in rural areas on the far east side of the county. We have specially set up this week's microgiving campaign so that those small food banks receive donations first. And then if you're really generous this week, larger amounts of donation will go to larger organizations, to Nourish Meals on Wheels in the suburbs of Arapahoe County, and to Village Exchange Center, feeding thousands in Aurora, and to Integrated Family Community Services with its no-cost grocery-style market in Inglewood. Here's the deal. Your legendary generosity would overwhelm most of those smaller food banks, would provide more in donations than they could really use. But we set up this week's campaign to give the smaller nonprofits smaller donation amounts, and then your giving can spill over into those larger organizations that honestly can use any dollar amount that we can raise to help feed our fellow Coloradans. I hope this speaks to the request that a number of you have made that we try and help smaller food banks that are doing wonderful work right now. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word THANKS to 303-871-1491 to get that link to donate. You know even $5 helps, because 5 years of pooling your $5 donations has raised $16 million for nonprofits. And you know I'll never ask you to give if I don't, so I'll match the first 50 donations of $5 to get us going. More than 6,000 of you have signed up to make a monthly donation to the Word of Thanks Fund. You put in your info once, and each month your donations automatically split among all the nonprofits we feature. That is why we are confident that we are going to start this week with about $40,000 in your generosity. An extremely endangered ferret is having a hard time staying alive around here. Biologists want to know why the little guy is struggling so much.
Not only was he a jazz musician, but he was also one of jazz's greatest promoters, particularly of Denver jazz.
Denver just lost a legendary musician. We remember his contributions to the sound of our state. Next. Biologists are hoping that drones and trackers can help them figure out why so many black-footed ferrets are dying on the eastern plains. Since 2020, they've released more than 100 of the extremely endangered ferrets at the Southern Plains Land Trust Ranch south of Lamar. They did a survey this fall, and researchers couldn't find a single one of them left. They're gone. This week, they released 20 more ferrets wearing collars. They're going to work with biologists from the Smithsonian and drones to track the ferrets' movements. The collars only stay on for a few days, but it might be enough time to find out what's making snacks out of those ferrets. Chris Bianchi, that's no good. We don't have ferrets to spare, and every ferret they put out there by Lamar is getting chewed up by something.
Those poor ferrets, not only are they obviously dying, but they have to wear a collar until they presumably get eaten, right?
Well,
sounds annoying.
It's for science, which I know you appreciate.
I appreciate a little bit of science here. And speaking of science, we do have a pretty good storm on the way for tomorrow and for Friday. 4 to 8 inches of snow for us across our southern mountains. And the metro area model's still flipping around, but a quarter to a half inch of needed rain on the way for us. Wet roads in the metro area may see a few flakes here in town. Accumulation at or above 6,500 feet in elevation. That snow starts up in the mountains tomorrow morning with the steadiest and heaviest snow tomorrow afternoon. Then that rain for us in Denver. Tomorrow's kind of a cloudy day for us in Denver. The rain not till after dark. dark and early on Friday morning, 6 p to 6 a between Thursday night and Friday morning, the main time window for rain for us here in the metro area. Eastern Plains, steadiest and heaviest rain for us with an inch plus possible out there. In the metro area, again, all this needed water. Yes, it's not falling in the form of snow. Yes, we've not seen a snowflake yet, and this is very unlikely to lead to measurable snow for us in Denver, but still, we'll take the water however it comes. Snowfall amounts highest for us here across our southern passes where we could see 4 to 8 inches plus at or above 10,000 feet in elevation, closer to about 2 to 6 inches plus across our northern passes. 7-day forecast, another good chance for rain. Models trending north for us with that next storm for Sunday and Monday. That means more rain on the way for us in the Denver area Sunday and Monday, mountain snow as well. And then next week, Thanksgiving, looking pretty chilly with temperatures likely dropping into the 30s mid next week.
If you know the name Pernell Steen, you know what he meant to Colorado's music scene. If not, please allow us to introduce you as we remember his legacy. Next. Pernell Steen, a pillar of Denver's jazz scene, passed away this week at the age of 84.
We're in the middle of the country, kind of known as a cowpoke city sometimes. But the musicians that come through Denver, they always know that there's going to be great jazz somewhere being played. Pernell was born in Denver, Colorado on April 15th, 1941. And he was not just put on this earth to be a musician, he was put on this earth to be a performer. I was fortunate, I played with him many, many times over the years. I heard so many people tell me that they learned to appreciate and understand the music so much more after Pernell played. Not only was he a jazz musician, but he was also one of jazz's greatest promoters, particularly of Denver jazz. And he would tell the history of jazz in 5 points.
He was very loud and proud, and I love that part about him. Even when you saw what he did on stage, he was always about bringing folks together. You know, he was always about that, and he understood that jazz could do that. And then he'd take you on a journey. And then you realize he just taught us a whole lot of things right then.
For a lot of people who feel intimidated by the music known as jazz, he made it so universal that everybody should enjoy it and can enjoy it, and he was certainly a member of jazz royalty in Denver.
Let's help a ton of small food banks in Arapahoe County feed our neighbors in need. And if we raise more in microgiving than those food banks can use, we have larger nonprofits fighting hunger that can put those extra dollars to use. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word THANKS to 303-871-1491 to join me in giving to the Arapahoe County Foundation. They'll distribute our donations without overhead or fees to food banks from Deer Trail to Aurora to Sheridan to Inglewood to Littleton, food banks in schools, food banks in rural areas, just neighbors feeding neighbors. Feedback from Aaron on X, who says, Kyle, just the last little bit of time you have as an employed journo, your new employer is going to pink slip you. Do you think the pink slip might match the jacket? You're like, tuck it in. It could look kind of festive. I'd have to know which day I'm getting fired, though, so I have the jacket. That could be tough to coordinate. Aaron, I'm going to try to do it for you because I know you care. See y'all next time.